So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiance Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 9, Episode 8 of 90 Day Fiance. In this episode, Bilal shows Shaeeda how to put silverware away, Emily tries to tell Kobe the best way to shovel manure, Patrick and Thais and John make a big move to Dallas, Eve is not impressed with Mohamed's mosque visit, Ari tries to square off against a trained fighter, and Jibri gets to Chicago, where the situation with David deteriorates dramatically. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dances, and life lessons. If you'd like to hear, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
What day is it again? Because I can't remember.
Yeah, I think I was just talking to someone because they were trying to make plans when I got back. And I was like, I don't want to plan anything. It'll be 18 days straight that I've worked without any day off.
Yeah. And this just you're in a place where everybody else is also working all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's just like days completely lose meaning.
Oh, yeah. We have no weekends. We didn't even have Memorial Day. So yeah, it's been a long haul.
It is. But we did remember that the show was on last night.
Barely. We were like, oh, is it Sunday? Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So we have that to watch. And we started with Bilal and Shaeeda. So kind of see Shaeeda still in her feelings about the gondola conversation, which is, remember, he basically was like, oh, you promised me you didn't need any more kids or something like that. And it definitely was implying the no more kids thing. So she's pretty upset about that. And so kind of the way she's taking her revenge on Bilal here is it's Friday and she's not going to go to Juma with him. I mean, also not surprising because the last time they went to Juma together, it was kind of a shit show. Yeah. And so I can understand her not wanting to go back. So he starts talking. She says, where I come from in Trinidad, Juma is only mandatory for men. For women, they can go if they want. It's nice, but they don't have to. And so she's going to take that option. But then he starts talking to her about, well, here it's important. It's mandatory for everybody to learn about the religion. And she stops him right there. Goes, why is it every time you talk to me, it's a lecture?
Oh, gosh.
Which, accurate. He's kind of like.
She's not wrong.
Yeah, she's not wrong. It kind of comes, interesting, which is always what you want to hear when you say something like that to somebody.
Right.
So they kind of go about how he's always, demanding of her. And they go around and around in circles about how important it is to him. He's like, a religion's so important and maybe she's not as religiously devout as I thought. But then again, maybe she is, because he keeps finding the pins that hold her a job up all over the place, including like stuck in the couch, which throws him into a place where he's like, do you know how expensive this couch is?
Oh, gosh, please.
I know. She's like, is it an air couch? Is it going to deflate because I stuck a pin in it? No. But at the end of the day, she holds firm and is not going to go to Juma with him. So I don't know. He seems to be very demanding, and it seems like she's making just a couple of little stands here. Do you think she's picking good hills to die on?
Yeah, but I think she's going about it in a way that I don't think is getting her message across, because I definitely feel this is a very passive-aggressive move on her part.
Yeah, for sure.
She's clearly upset with him about other things, and that's why she's stopped putting in the effort. I don't know if it's really 100% she doesn't want to go to Juma, but I do think like that is part of it. She's like, why am I going to put myself out there doing something I don't really want to do when I'm not feeling you right now? And she said it in the interview, and I was just like, why are you not using this against him? The fact that the last time she went to Juma specifically, like, she did not have a good time. He did not show her around. And he even brought up this time, he's like, well, don't you want to meet new people? It's like, well, that didn't really happen the first time. And I would have thrown that in his face and been like, yeah, the last time I went, blah, 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 like it didn't work out. I didn't meet anyone because you were ignoring me. You were like across the room. You didn't introduce me to anyone, and like made him feel guilty for his passive aggressive moves as well.
Right. Like if you want everybody to do this thing, which he clearly does, or at least he states he does, like you have to make it pleasant for everybody. Yeah. At least, there's like a bare minimum of things. It's not like, oh, you should want to do this thing. I know it was terrible and I know you hated it, but you should want to do it. It's like, no, that's not how it's going to work.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he likes not being able to control her, too. It's almost like you could see it in his face. Like, he's just like, why won't you do what I tell you to do?
Right, but he doesn't want to, he's definitely like holding it in. He doesn't want to like yell or get crazy. He just kind of holds it behind there. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that he said that I thought was a bit contradictory is, he was saying, I always, the family that prays together stays together. And it's just like, well, I'm pretty sure your ex-wife was at Juma. I'm pretty sure you all prayed together and you all are not staying together. So
right.
That can't be
like,
the only thing.
I don't know. I always feel like that part too, like the family that prays together stays together is like, is it because you are in some sort of oppressive culture that doesn't let people break up? And that's why, like it's kind of be like, it kind of just makes me picture that dad that makes everybody's coming down here and we're going to pray at the same time. Like if you're that controlling over prayer, you're probably that controlling over something else. Doesn't mean everybody's happy together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Cause just because you stay together doesn't mean everybody's happy together. That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so we check in with Emily and Kobe, where Kobe is somehow part of some test that Emily has set up for him, where he's going to prove himself to be a good son-in-law to her parents. So off to the barn they go, where Lisa, Emily's mom, has tasked him with scooping up some manure. She says it's too hard for her now that she's a little bit older. She can't lift it. And so Lisa, Emily, and Kobe are all in the horse stalls, and Kobe's a little nervous because he tells us horses are pretty rare in Africa. He's also telling us that he's really missing Cameroon in general, mostly the warm weather, the beer there is different, and as he says, his handball team. So he's stuck shoveling manure, and Emily just can't help but tell him that he's doing it wrong. So she's sitting there supervising, and Kobe's getting a bit frustrated because he just wants to do it his way. He doesn't need her telling him how to do things. And really, he suspects that she's just trying to prove to her mom that, she can tell him to do whatever she wants and that she has complete control over him. So Lisa's just standing there awkwardly as they're kind of bickering back and forth. And Kobe's just kind of hinting that she should just stay quiet. And then things escalate a little bit, especially after Kobe says, just shut the fuck up. So Emily does not take very kindly to those words, and so she gets all huffy. She kind of storms off, and she tells us that she can't believe that he's talking to her like that, and she's only known him for a couple months before she got pregnant, and she didn't realize this was his real temperament. She was just trying to help. She has no idea why it ended up this way, especially in front of her parents. And so, that's pretty much how it ended. So, do you think that Kobe was overreacting to things here?
No.
Or Emily overreacting to Kobe's shut the fuck up?
I mean, yes, I think Emily overreacted to shut the fuck up, but that's also because, I don't know, that's the way I kind of talk. Maybe, shut the fuck up is a little extreme, but he didn't yell it. He was like, could you shut the fuck up? Because
it was clear he was frustrated, and I think it's not in a joking way. So, I mean, it's fair enough, but it's one of those things where it's like people are like, that's so disrespectful. I can't believe you said that. Yeah. That's definitely how she took it.
Oh, she did. And I always am. Anytime people go on and on about respect, I was disrespected. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to relate to you because I don't understand what you're doing. Because to me, she was being super rude. As much as she's like, oh my God, that was so rude. And it's like, you know what's rude? Is when somebody else is working, just standing there with your hands in your pockets, telling them what to do.
Right.
And then saying, but I was helping.
Right.
I was helping. I guess I'm not going to help him anymore. It's like, yeah, that's what he asked you to do. Yeah. He said, if you're not going to do anything, leave.
He doesn't want your help. Just go.
He might if she picked up a shovel.
Right. And and that was the other thing too is, just let the guy do, what he's doing. And she says, well, I just want you to finish faster so we can hang out. Let
him figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a learning thing too. That's how people learn, by figuring it out, not by listening to you. Put it this way. No. Put turn the middle side topwise kind of thing. It doesn't work, and it's just annoying. There's nothing more annoying than somebody kibitzing you while you're trying to work. No. Why are you pulling it down? You should have put it on top. And so I get I don't know that his assessment about, I think she's doing this just so she can prove she can control me. I just think she is a person that grew up always getting her way.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't understand that other people have other ways. And she's like, well, you should do it my way because it's my way that makes it the best way.
Yeah, but he wasn't wrong in assessing, like, this is some kind of weird test she's putting me through.
Oh, the weird test. Everybody has a weird test. And I don't know why all of these tests on this show involve, like, well, how are they going to contribute to the household? Because he should contribute to the household, right?
He should, yes.
But how, for some reason, through all the seasons, you know, we used to have Tim and Jennifer, and, you know, we had, what's his face, the one, La Julia, right?
Oh, yes.
But it always involves, like, how can I help out around the house? Somehow always involves to shoveling shit. Like, you can shovel shit for us. I don't, like, it's a little bit, you know, into that vein. It's like, really, you couldn't think of anything different he could have done that might have been productive?
Yeah. I mean, assuming this isn't a one-off thing, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I think this goes for more than just this task, like, people do things their own way because it's not a universal one way works the best for everyone.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And she can't get that. This is just a microcosm of everything else. Because she doesn't give it for how he wants to interact with Coben either.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how I do it. Well, especially if I'm him. Well, your way of doing it is just whip your boob out and have a kid get on it. That won't work for me. You should at least understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So next up is Jibri and Miona. Kept kind of a short segment for them. They're packing up to go to Chicago, but notably not packing up the cowgirl boots. That's not going to work in Chicago because they have this big time opportunity to meet with this, I don't know, crazy music producer who they've been trying to work with forever. And of course, the compromise was that she gets her beach wedding if they go to Chicago. So they get in the car and they start the drive, which he was like, oh, I have a half a tank. I can make it on a 13-hour drive all the way to Chicago. And after they leave, he kind of starts talking about his relationship with David and kind of how that all went. And it was a rocky start to the relationship as they almost kind of first met when he made fun of David's accent and then David beat the crap out of him and put him into a coma. But then he started, unbeknownst to him, he started dating David's twin sister.
That's so weird. How would you not notice that?
Yeah. He said he didn't know it was her twin sister.
For 3 months.
For 3 months. And then you'd think they like addresses, he'd show up, I don't know. But then at some point they kind of became best friends even after Jibri broke up with the sister, and they've been, you know, tight ever since. Well, that is ever since till Miona came into the picture. And he feels like he kind of has to apologize to the group and the band because he's been in love and is focused on his relationship with Miona, which is why, you know, the band hasn't really been together, kind of, you know, things aren't going so great with the band and they haven't done anything. And, you know, he thinks that he kind of blame Miona for that, even though he goes with his own decision. And she just kind of seems disinterested in the whole thing. Like, yeah, okay, whatever you want to do, that's fine. Because, I don't know, I'll ask a question of that. I mean, do you think she takes his music career seriously at all?
I think she'll take it seriously when it comes down to the money.
Yeah.
So I think in a way she must, because she also has a job where it depends on, you know, gigs, how popular you are, stuff like that. So I think she can relate to it at least, and so knows it has to be important because, I mean, while she doesn't come off as like a explicit gold digger, it's like she has to appreciate their situation where they're stuck in it until they get money.
Right. And that's all she wants, is that she has a certain situation that requires a certain amount of money.
Right.
to obtain what she wants.
Right.
Right. She's like, I don't want money. I just want to live at the beach and I just want to have a nice car. And I just want to have, I just don't care about money.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like she's been pretty good about not making specific demands. Like her demands are vague. She just doesn't want to live with his parents. Which
is understandable. Like that, and that you can make her sound gold digger as much as you want. Most grown women don't want to live with their boyfriend's parents.
Definitely not. But she may go one step further by like demands like, oh, I want to live in an expensive town like LA or New York or, you know, something.
Yeah. And just, I don't know. It just seems like I think she'd be more okay with it if his music career was a solo career.
Yeah, and yes, I agree. I do think it's the fact that it's with other people who we get the impression don't really like her. They think she's like the Yoko Ono.
Right.
Of like their band.
Right. And so, I mean, I can understand that too. I don't want to go hang out with a bunch of people that I know hate me.
Yeah. Okay, so we check in with Eve and Mohamed, who are a little uncertain after their dinner with Eve's squad the night before. He's feeling a little guilty that, maybe they came off as kind of rude and disrespectful. So she wants to prove that she can be understanding of where Mohamed is coming from. So she arranges a visit to the mosque. So Mohamed and Eve are driving on their way to the mosque, and Mohamed is a little hopeful that this will be the first step in Eve converting to Muslim, whereas Eve has absolutely no intention of doing that, but she just wants to be supportive. So they get to the mosque, and she's really not sure what to expect. Mohamed tries to tell her, that she needs to wear a headscarf and cover her hair. And Eve is really not about this because it's real hot in New Mexico. So she says she's very, very, very hot. And so she doesn't really make too much of an effort to really secure anything, and her hair is all hanging out. And really the goal of this scarf is just to cover her hair. They get into the mosque and they're asked to go their separate ways because men and women are segregated, which Eve finds to be very odd. She wasn't used to this. Mohamed gets along with the men of the group, and Eve is being shown around by a woman, and they do their prayers, and afterwards Mohamed and Eve go to the parking lot where they have a conversation about how great it was that they got to visit the mosque. And then Mohamed throws in, yes, and maybe this is the first step to conversion. He says it's really important to him that the person he is with is religious because he tells us about his dad, who passed away when he was 14. He calls his dad a very religious man, and he said that he really wants his father to be proud of him and who he is today. And he believes that also means in being religious and being with someone who respects and participates in their religion. Eve has absolutely no intention of converting. And then Mohamed kind of alludes to the fact that, they talked about her changing her ways. And she said, I never said I was going to change religion. And then Mohamed says maybe that she'll have to convert in order for this relationship to work, which seems to be news to everyone because I don't think they're on the same page.
No, they're not on the same page at all. Like, he even said that last time. Like, I didn't tell you had to convert to Islam, but it seems like he's changed his mind more or less because he was like, I am not liking how much she's not listening to me. Right. And if she becomes a Muslim, then they'll teach her that she has to listen to me.
Yeah.
And which is like not great, like not a good reason, because he immediately followed up we won't be, she has to be a Muslim maybe for this relationship to work, was because he was like, there's no way I can be in a relationship with anybody who doesn't prioritize my needs, which is a very large red flag.
Right. And especially because it was like, since when are these your needs? I don't even understand how you guys are together in the first place. If that was really one of your needs, I think that's maybe on the want list.
Right? Yeah. I get to decide what you wear. Sure. Now, that being said, I feel like she could have put more of an effort into this hijab she was putting on.
Gosh, yes. It was a piss poor job at a maybe attempt. It didn't even really seem like a real attempt. She was like, okay, I'll throw this thing on.
Didn't even have a safety pin.
No.
Like the pins that were stuck in the couch from Bilal's segment apparently
never made it to New Mexico. Yeah, and her hair was all hanging out, and I was pretty clear on it. He didn't even say anything about specifically how to wear it. He just said, cover your hair, and she couldn't even do that.
No, she seemed like she specifically wanted that one big, lock of hair, like, out in the front. Like, this is way cuter.
Yeah. So, I just, it's one of those things where both of them seem to have very clear deal breakers, but they don't care. They're just trekking along with the relationship anyway.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a sunk cost relationship. Like, I've already made it this far. Gotta keep going.
Yeah, and it's like the religion thing, I think, for some people is a big deal. And it's so interesting to me because, I think it's one of those things where you hear about it being a big deal, but then you also hear a lot about, people marrying outside of their beliefs or religions, and how interesting how something starts off being a deal breaker, but it ends up being a compromise.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're both kind of feeling like. They're like, oh, it's a deal breaker. They'll come around.
Right. And I do think there is an element of, he's like, well, if I just stick with it long enough, she'll relent and then she'll convert.
Yeah, I mean, it also seems to him like, I don't understand why you wouldn't convert. He seems to have trouble not understanding that other people have a different perspective than him.
Sure.
And so he's like, but I love this religion and it's great and it's a meaningful part of my life.
Right.
So it'll be a meaningful part to her life and she'll love it and it'll be great.
Yeah. Because he also seemed to think that the religion will speak for itself. It's so beautiful. Like, that's what he said. And then she immediately was not happy about the
She's like, wait, you put the women over here?
Yeah.
Like, uh-oh, yeah.
So, but I think what did they call him? The president of the mosque or the leader of the mosque?
Mm-hmm.
He was pointing out kind of the more obvious things. Like, Mohammed's going to have a hard time in a liberal culture.
Yeah, I think he was trying to be diplomatic and be like, this is going to be a shit show. Like,
right.
All right, so next up is Ari and Bini, and they get in the car in Princeton to drive the 45 minutes each way to Jersey City so they can go to this which Ari said was the best MMA gym she could find. Right, because we talked about how last time Bini's dream is to be an MMA fighter. So he's really pumped to go to this gym. He's really pumped to start working out. He talks about his dream to be in the UFC and all this. And all the while, she's expressing a little bit concern that seems like he's really more excited about this UFC thing than maybe the family. So they get to the gym and they have the trainer, work him out. And he puts on the gloves and they trade some punches. And he's like, oh yeah, I think there's something I can work with. And then they kind of talk and ask, well, how much would he have to train? He's like, well, he'd probably have to train like 2 to 4 hours every day. And this comes as a shock to Ari, who didn't know like training would be like half a day every day. And is he really going to commit this? Is he putting his dreams above his family? And she even considers, does this even really mean he's suspicious that he even wants to be married? So, and you already talked about this before.
Yeah.
Is Ari right to be suspicious?
Yeah, I said immediately, it's like, she's right to be suspicious because he already laid out the plan. The plan was to come to America to live out his dream. Ari signed the papers, and if it doesn't work out, he could leave.
Yeah, it's just, it's nuts. And it seems like this is his dream and it is a way. I don't trust these gym people. Like, I don't think there's anybody who comes into the gym and says, let's work you out. Let's see what you got. And they go, yeah, you're dog shit. Get out of here. Like, you're not going to be good. Like, they're going to take your money, no matter what.
Yeah, that's the thing that I would want to know more about. Like, how expensive is this gym? And all of that. How expensive are training sessions?
Right.
Because I do think that goes into, what they're going to say to you. It's kind of like those, you should always be suspicious when you have to pay to be a part of a job, right? This is supposed to be your job. And I get there's some amount of training because I'm not saying be suspicious of education, right? Obviously.
Right, obviously.
But, it does seem, that if this is a for-profit gym, they are going to, they don't really care about your success.
Right. They make money training a lot of people. Like, that's what they do. Whether they successful or big champions in MMA or what, they get their money. Like, that's a good way to make money in MMA without having to actually win any fights or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I have this automatic, but that's because I have an automatic suspicion of everybody who's selling anything all the time.
So have you heard of what they were referring to? Because he said it was AMA Fight Club. That was who they've trained the champion of. And I was like, I've never heard of AMA.
No, I definitely do not follow this at all. And it's one of those things, you know how there's always like crazy little worlds, right?
Right.
You get in your own little world and that's like somebody will be like a big deal and you're like, that person's a really big deal. And then you talk to someone next to you, like that person means absolutely nothing to me. They're just a dude.
That's like a couple days ago, there was a Uruguayan Uruguayan.
Uruguayan.
Uruguay.
The Uruguayan soccer team was here for their friendly. Yeah.
And everyone was like screaming and yelling in the lobby, and we went over to check it out, and we're like, who the heck is that guy?
It's just some dude.
We had no idea what was going on, but apparently that team is staying in our hotel.
Well, they were for the friendly on Sunday. They played against the U.S. on Sunday. And it was like, I was like, I figured out it was the Uruguayan team just from all the Uruguay flags.
Right.
That we saw, but I was like, I still don't know who that dude is.
Yeah. People were going crazy, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. I guess it's a soccer dude, and we just like walked away. We're like, all right.
Right. It's all like that. And so I imagine this AMA thing was like, you would say it, and you're like, is that supposed to impress me? Because I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, I get that I haven't heard of individuals, and they didn't even name drop. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
But at the same time, it's like I haven't even heard of that organization.
No.
All right, we check in with Patrick and Thais, who seem to be having their first date night because ever since Thais has gotten to the country, John has been around. Patrick does admit that things have gotten a little bit less awkward between John and Thais, but as they're driving to their date night, he tells Thais that they're planning on moving to Dallas, and Thais gets really excited, except when she finds out the we that Patrick was talking about did include John as well. So she starts to push back a little bit and says, why does he have to live with us? Doesn't he have his own girlfriend, his own friends, and other family? And Patrick says, no, John's been there forever, and he's part of our family, so we can't just abandon him. So Thais says, well, maybe he can just live in another house. Like, we live in our house, and he lives in another house. Patrick says, no, that's not how it's going to be, especially because I already told him that he could live with us. So they're both moving there for work, and Thais isn't so happy about it. So what do you think the solution to this is?
I don't know if there's a good solution to it. I get that feeling that there's more of a story between why he's so adamant that John live with them. Like there's something more to it than I think he really feels either responsible for John somehow or something. Like if he doesn't let him live with him, things are going to go to shit real fast.
Yeah, I do kind of get this sense of responsibility. Like it's almost like, well, where is John going to live if it's not with me? You know, how is John going to survive? Who's going to be there for John?
Right.
And it kind of almost makes me wonder a little bit. Maybe John is a former addict of some kind, and Patrick has been there for him as well as John being there for Patrick, because we already know kind of the backstory of why he feels like John is such a good family member. He feels that John was really loyal to him. He was really there in his darkest of times, which is through his divorce. And Patrick just wants to pay the favor because that's his brother, that's his family. He was there. John was there when no one else was. So he wants to be the same for John.
Right. So whatever it is, though, either, Thais doesn't know the story, the full story, or she does, and she doesn't give a shit, which is like, I hope it's the first one.
Yeah, I was going to say, the second one is not good.
The second one is pretty bad.
Yeah. I have no idea, but it's just, I don't know why she is so anti-John. Patrick seems to think, she'll, if she just gives him a chance, she'll love him the same way I do. And it's like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think things will be better, but I don't know. Isn't there any situation where you can maybe live next door to one another? Like, can't you go be in condos or something, have a shared wall? Isn't that a compromise?
Right. But it just seems like she's not open to compromise at all. She's just like, no, I don't want that. No. Let him figure shit out. I don't care.
Yeah. But I would have to know what their situation is in Dallas because he owns a home in Austin. So I don't know. Is he planning on renting out the home? Is he planning on selling it and then getting, a house in Dallas? Because, I think a compromise seems pretty obvious. Just live next door to the guy, And I get where Thais is coming from too, because it's like she doesn't want to worry about shared space And, John being there while, they're trying to walk around naked or something like that.
Right.
I get that.
She just wants to walk around with her tits out. Sure.
Oh, gosh. But, it's just, I think it's like easy. Just live near each other where you guys can hang out at each other's places, like within walking distance.
Yeah. And I'd say that, but the kind of neighborhoods, the kind of McMansion they live in now, it does not lend itself. It's not like there's a McMansion right next door to some smaller townhouse or something that they would not live in.
Well, and I think that's part of the compromise too, right?
Yeah,
tell her, if you want to live by yourself or live by ourselves, we're going to have to get 2 like smaller apartments,
right? And
we're going to have smaller space. And I think she would go for it.
I don't know that she would. I think she'd be like, if he's in the apartment next door, then that's still living with us. I don't like that.
Well, but she still has her own space. That's not his space. Now, the problem would be if John was over at their house all the time anyway.
Which he would be, probably. So,
well, I think Patrick would have to make more of an effort to go over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so next up, we have more with Jibri and Miona. And they're finally getting to Chicago, and Miona confuses the overground median grass with pampas, which she's like, that's like $10 a stalk when we back at home. But I'm pretty sure it was just plain old overgrown grass. And anyway, they get there and they meet with David finally. And David, we find out, actually owns and operates a trucking company, which makes me a little curious why he's still messing around with the music. Because he had seemed to have a lot of ins with a lot of trucks. And at this company, when they get there, he starts trying to convince Jibri. He's like, hey, while we're working on this music, I can get you in the seat of a truck. You can make a little bit extra money on the side. And Jibri gets very offended about this, and actually so does Miona. They're both like, you're killing my dreams, man. The money changed you. This sounds like the safe route. There's lots of routes to success. And then we get into a discussion about how, what David thinks, or I should say, Dacho, as his title card called him.
Yeah.
What Dacho thinks is that it's maybe Miona that's holding him back. Like, he used to know Jibri. He was full of fire. He had such ambition. He'd go for everything. It kind of feels like he's almost neutered with Miona in the picture. And then they both kind of have this whole thing about who has Jibri's best interest at heart, Miona or David, and who cares about him the most and which one's holding him back. It just kind of goes in circles for a little while as they argue with each other. So I guess my question is, which one of these two people do you think is holding Jibri back more?
I don't know if anyone's holding them back so much as they both have very strong opinions about what's best for Jibri, and it's not the same thing.
Sure.
So I think they both do, is just they have to recognize that the best for Jibri isn't necessarily their opinion of how everything should play out. And once they kind of get past that, because I think David is coming from a space where he's like, well, why do we even make this music? To make money, man. And here's a way to make money, take care of your family. So while we're being creative and potentially that could be even more money, let's make some money right now.
Yeah. And it just seems like Jibri is of the opinion that he can't do both.
Yeah,
right?
But if David is, because isn't he making music with David? So it makes sense that it's like, well, if David's doing it, so can you.
And David was the one who got the hookup with his producer. Because you know what? You know what you can do? When you have money and have a big network, you can get these producers. You know what won't get the producer? Not having money. Like, it's still, even if it's a creative enterprise like Jibri wants to get into, it takes money to make money. You can't just build it off of nothing. You have to have that capital.
Right. And I think that it's just interesting to me that Jibri doesn't want any part of this, because David must be making bank. Like, shipping costs have gone way up.
Oh, yeah.
And,
no doubt.
They can command that kind of money right now. And granted, gas prices are and they're trying to cover the cost of things. But the lack of, truck drivers and, other people that make this happen is part of the reason why the shipping has gone up for everything. So if David has those services, they're going to be high in demand. Yeah,
I just imagine his company has to be doing okay if he owns multiple trucks.
Yes, very well.
Yeah, like, they got to be doing pretty good. And it just, it's crazy to look at that. And he just did that. The money changed you, man. The money changed you, man.
Gosh.
Like, it just, I don't know. I'm definitely on Team David here because I'm always, they said it's the safe route. And it's like, I guess it is.
It's a job. When is a job the safe route?
No, he does think it's a safe route. But it's like, I guess also you could say, I'm just following my dreams. I spend my money on lottery tickets. That's the risky route. There's a lot of pathways to get there.
Gosh,
like that is one of your pathways, but how many of those non-risky pathways just end up with you taking the safe route just 10 years later?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think also, I think what we don't understand is why can't you do it all?
Yeah. Why can't you just do both?
I mean, you see this all the time, like actors, aspiring actors, actresses, like working a day job. Well, this is your day job.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so while Bilal's at Juma, Shaeeda is left at home and she's going to, as she refers to, make wudu, which means she needs to wash her hands, feet, and face. So she decides the best place to do this is at the kitchen sink. So the kitchen sink isn't really designed to do this, so she of course gets water everywhere, and soon after, Bilal comes home. He immediately notices that there's water everywhere and asks her what she did. And she said, "Oh, I made wudu." And so then they start cleaning up, and she points out that, she feels like she's living with the king because he needs things to be so clean all the time, and he has very clear OCD. While he's putting things away, she's, looking at what he got her and asks for a knife. So he opens up the utensil drawer to find that she has not really cleaned the silverware very well and has put them any which way with all size spoons and all size forks all together, and he is not happy. So he once again just kind of rolls his eyes, shakes his head, and lectures her on how things should be put away. All right, so do you think that this guy would drive you nuts? He claims he's not OCD. He claims he's neat.
OCD is also a clinical disorder, and the fact that he lives a normal life, relatively shows he does not actually have OCD.
Right.
But it's everybody has a line, right? It's all about where your lines are. And I tended to think she was right before, right? Oh, everything's so exact. He fluffs his pillows and karate chops them just the right way before he leaves. Right, that was saying one way. Then this way, she's like, he's being so exacting. He's doing that over a huge amount of water on the floor in the kitchen. And I was like, that's a safety issue. You can't just leave water out. What are you doing? Right. And also the silverware, which I've never put silverware like that. I'm on his. He has the divider with the things. I put all my silverware facing the same direction in the correct slots.
Right. No, I agree with him on that. She clearly stuck little spoons in the big spoon pile just because she thought, oh, spoons, and just stuck them all in. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's how he says all this stuff, right? I think there's a kinder way of kind of showing her hey, little spoons on this side, bigger spoons on this side or something. But he just rolls his eyes and he's like, really? He has that kind of attitude.
Yeah, but it's also well, let me not just, hey, I put the spoons here. This is how I put my silverware away.
Yeah.
Right? It's let me speak to you the advantages of having the silverware laid out to this, and let me show you why my way is the best way to do it, instead of just being I always put the silverware away like this. And kind of just handling it. Mm-hmm. And then also the other thing is having things that are still dirty in there. It's there are things that are right, and it is tricky to find a kinder way, especially from a dad who is used to lecturing people when they do it the wrong way.
Right.
But you definitely can't lecture your wife or prospective wife like that.
Yeah, especially because, as she brought up, she was like, thank you, Shaeeda, to make a point that she's been trying, and he just doesn't even seem to appreciate her efforts in any kind of way.
Right, because it was thank you after a long time. It wasn't, oh, thanks for putting the dishes away, but when I put them away, I do this, or things like that. It was, oh my God, laughed at her.
Yeah.
I was did you put the forks in the spoon slot? What are you doing? Were you a crazy lady? But yeah, I would definitely probably have a similar reaction to the water. Did you spill something? What happened over here? All right, so next up is Emily and Kobe. And so we kind of have to deal with the fallout of Shut the Fuck Up Ghazi here, because first he finishes his work and talks to Lisa about it, who says, I don't know that it's a woman or man thing, but because Emily can be pretty pushy, but that's probably not something you should say to your significant other. And my husband would never say it to me. So he goes in and tries to like kind of start the conversation by just being like, hey, babe, to kind of gauge where she's at. And yeah, she's not in a good place because she immediately is like, hey, babe, that's what you have to say. And then things quickly deteriorate from there. It becomes a kind of a talking over each other type thing. She's like, I can't believe you were so rude to me. He's like, but you kept talking and talking. It just seems like he couldn't clearly articulate what it was that was frustrating him because she doesn't understand it at all. Or maybe she doesn't really want to understand it. But she ends up making some very sassy comments about how if this isn't going to work out, you're going to step back to Africa, like with weird, crazy eyes and things. And eventually they do both apologize to each other, and both of them seemed really insincere about their apologies.
She seemed more insincere than he did.
He apologized. I apologize for saying it. And she's like, well, I'm sorry for just talking to you while you were working. Yeah. And then they just kind of decide to stop arguing. And like, I don't know. I mean, do you think this is a deeper seated problem that is going to really derail this relationship here?
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like it's her problem, right? Mm-hmm. I think you're going to run into major issues in a relationship when one person can't see outside themselves to realize that their actions or something that they did somehow influence someone else's actions, right?
Right.
The fact that she's unable to see at all, like from any perspective, that how she was talking to him was maybe degrading or very bossy, and she fails to even like think of that as even a possibility, she's going to fail to find fault in anything else in a future argument. And that's a huge red flag. Yeah,
that's true. Because, and I thought maybe it was him just not being able to articulate it.
Sure.
Because it was like, she kept saying, well, you were rude. And I was like, she was being rude too.
Yeah.
Like what she was doing was also rude. And,
right.
And it even said that at some point he was talking to Lisa. She was just like, meh, 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 meh. And we have the closed captions on.
Yeah.
And it said imitates nagging. And I was like, that's exactly what that was. And it was like, she just can't see that she was nagging him. And she was just like, oh, you're mad because your fiance was talking to you? What a ridiculous thing to be mad about.
Yeah.
Right? And it is just illustrative of, and I think he understood, okay, yes, saying shut the fuck up maybe not have been the best, most productive way to stop that. But it was also, we also saw him, she didn't get the message. He had hinted at it many times before. Yeah. Please stop doing this.
She was not getting it. And so that's also what's frustrating is, you know, and that's why I say it's a her problem. He can at least admit, like, all right, that wasn't the best way to react. Like, it's based in something like emotions, you know, and
right.
You need to do your best to control your emotions, you know, so you're not hurtful to others. But I mean, at least he can recognize that what he did was hurtful. It's like she can't even see past herself to like even see her contribution to this argument.
Right. And it does seem, I thought it was funny that her mom was like, yeah, I get why you wanted to say that.
Yeah. Like she's bossy. She's a lot.
Yeah. But maybe you probably shouldn't. Like, that's not something a husband says to a wife.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So it is moving day for Thais, Patrick, and John. So they're leaving their Austin house and they all leave at the same time. And they probably would have got there at the same time if Thais and Patrick didn't make a road stop for a little bit of random sex.
Well, they needed to charge the car. What else are you going to do while that's happening?
So they all make it to the house and John's been there already and it looks like he set up a little bit of the furniture and so Patrick is giving Thais a tour and she is already pointing out the ugly furniture, which I don't know why she's pointing this out now considering they've been living with this furniture for the last couple weeks, but she's pretty much just really being passive aggressive about the fact that she really doesn't want to be living with John. So the way that the new house is set up is Patrick was thinking that the bottom downstairs floor would be theirs and the upstairs floor would kind of be John's space. So Thais goes upstairs and she talks about how ugly these couches are.
And Patrick points out that she'll never have to see them if she doesn't want to because this is going to be John's space. So then she gets all upset that why do we have smaller space? So then overall, she starts complaining about the size of the house. She says that this house is too small. And Patrick points out that this house is bigger than her house that she grew up with in Brazil, and it's bigger than the place that they had in Austin. She kind of mopes around saying it doesn't feel this way. But what she's really trying to say is this house ain't big enough for all of us. But Patrick is really upset because he says that he grew up in a trailer park, and the fact that Thais is complaining about this house, he has zero patience for it. And it really sends some red flags to him about her ungratefulness about the situation, especially since all the bills are on him and she can't pay for anything. So, do you think Thais is really unhappy with this house, or is it symbolic for other things she's unhappy for?
I think she is unhappy for the house, but I don't think she's unhappy about it for the reasons she says she's unhappy about it. Mm-hmm. I think the house is fine. It was a nice house. It really did look like a nice house.
It was a new build, he was saying. So,
yeah,
I mean,
even crazier.
Nice,
right?
Nice house.
But I think the issue that she had, and she kind of offhandedly mentioned it once, and I don't know that she even realized this is the issue, is that she had no say in picking it out.
Yes, that's true.
Right? So she just feels out of it. She just feels like she has no control over the situation. The only control over the situation she can assert is bitching about the furniture.
Yeah.
Right? That's all she has. It wasn't she said that. He did this. He just bought it without me. He went, sold this old house, bought a new house without me. I didn't see it. I didn't step foot into it till I'm moving into it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even know what it looked like. And he's like, well, I told you it was bigger than the other house. That's all she had. And so I don't know. I think, save a very few exceptions, she was going to have complaints about this house just because it was out of her control.
Right. But at the same time, it's like, if she had just moved a couple weeks later, she wouldn't even seen the first house. So it wasn't matter to her.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I feel like the bigger issue, and this goes with John, this goes with her, is she feels like Patrick has all the power in the relationship. It's a power dynamic in the relationship where she just can only do whatever he decides and whatever he wants to do. He decides who's living with us. He decides where we live. Right? And she can't do anything. Now, is some of the things ridiculous? Like bitching about furniture in somebody else's room because it's my house? That's absurd, obviously.
Right. Yeah, I think she just needs to let some of it go because as much as Patrick does make all the decisions, it's pretty clear that he's not one of those controlling people, and he almost seems a little like whipped a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's very much kind of like, oh, I want to make her happy, so I just don't want to make her think about anything. I'll just take care of everything myself, and it'll work like that. And, besides picking a car that's big enough to bang in, he's not really doing the great things she wants.
Right.
All right, so we go back to Eve and Mohamed, and Eve is telling Mohamed that she's going to go out with her friend Tatiana tonight, which leads to a very passive-aggressive guilt trip from Mohamed. Like
through his eyes.
It was also like, oh, so you're going to go out and I'm going to stay home? Okay. Are you going to drink while you're out? Oh, I guess it's up to you. But at the end of the day, Mohamed obviously does not like these friends. And he thinks that that they're like going to be a bad influence on her or something, because one of his worst fears is that she's going to end up being like them. So she gets out, and of course, the first thing that happens is they get a drink. And they kind of discuss, well, how did things go? What did Mohamed think of us? And she kind of tried to say, well, she didn't like how much you talked about sex, because in his culture, you don't talk about sex at all. And, it kind of turned to the same old kind of back and forth. And Tatiana is really worried that, Mohamed is trying to use his religion and his way of life to control her, because she says, every time you see a bad relationship, this is how it starts out. And that, they were just asking these kind of questions to, just for her, just to get to know a little bit better, which I feel like you were suspicious of.
Yes, I called shenanigans, because a lot of the questions that they were asking were just he was right to be upset. Asking him if he watched porn and if he masturbated. That's not because you care about Eve. Come on.
Yes. Yeah. It's not about your religion, because the other thing she was worried about, and I think she's right on. And I think Eve kind of demurred and was like, I don't know. When she was like, do you think he'll expect you'll convert eventually?
Yeah.
like, it's pretty obvious to us on the show, you'd think to her that he does. He's not saying she has to, but that's something he expects is going to happen.
Right. And I think she does realize it because almost immediately after, she was asked that question, she had tears in her eyes. So obviously this is something that's upsetting to her, and she really does see the truth, even if she's afraid to say it out loud or to her friends.
Yeah. And like, I was particularly annoyed with Mohamed's guilt trip at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, just not because of even, it was twofold, right? The things he was demanding of her were pretty ridiculous. Don't have a friend that you see. Don't have a drink with this friend. And it's like, dude, this is one of those, I think this is one of those, you came to America. You came to a place where people drink when they go out. Like, but so what he was asking and how he was asking it, like, it was clear that it wasn't a problem. And he was like, no, it's no problem.
Right. Yeah, it's very passive aggressive. Like, say there's a problem if there's a problem.
Right. Yeah. And I just don't see this going very well at all for anybody.
No, same.
So we see Ari and Binyam driving to Ari's MMA gym, and Ari is dropping him off. She said that he's been training for 2 to 4 hours a day, just like Coach Charles said, every single day. So it's been about a week since this has been happening. Ari's feeling a little overwhelmed and overextended because she says that after she drops off Binyam, that she usually has to take care of Avi. And in addition to taking care of a child running around, she also has gotten a job with her friend working on their social media. So she's having to do emails and take calls and things like that. So we get a little bit of a clip of Ari running around the park or after Avi while trying to take work calls. So after they drop Binyam off, they go do their park thing, and then later they go to pick him up. So Ari walks in and sees that Binyam is sparring with a woman, and she is not happy about that. She almost immediately goes into confrontation mode and tries to get up in this woman's face, asks her what her name is, asks if she has a boyfriend, and does her boyfriend know she's sparring with a man? And she said that, why are you all dressed up and in full face of makeup? You have your fake eyelashes, and totally calling this woman out for sparring, even though they were being chaperoned by Coach Charles. Binyam is very embarrassed about this. He tries to explain to her that they both have a match coming up, and so it just made sense for them to spar with one another, and they're just training. And then Ari kind of shifts gears a little bit and says, well, why didn't you just tell me? I feel like you're hiding things from me. She feels that he keeps on trying to avoid conflict, and this avoidance of conflict is what's hurting their relationship because he's not fully honest with her. So then she goes on this whole thing where, if Binyam had just been honest with her, it wouldn't feel so suspicious, like he's trying to hide something from her. So then they're outside afterwards having a conversation or an interview with us, and then they just start arguing over one another, and Ari basically says she's done. Binyam kind of, says, well, I just want to say this, and then she says, you didn't even hear me, you don't even care, and it just is a hot mess.
Oh, yeah, total hot mess.
Yeah. What's your take on this?
I mean, I was laughing out loud at the last argument.
You were.
Just because it was so dumb and nobody said anything. It's like, I just want to say something. And she's like, no, I'm going to, and neither of them were letting each other finish each other's sentences.
Right.
It was just going on. I don't know what he wanted to say, but it was something, because he kept saying, I just want to say something.
Yeah.
Both of them weren't making any damn sense. And it went on for a long time.
Yes.
It was just like, what's going on here?
Right. A very long time. Right.
And I don't know, but I suspect that if we kind of saw their interactions outside of this, Ari would probably look less crazy. I think they tried to make her look maximum crazy on this.
Oh yeah,
right?
like getting in this woman's face like she's gonna start a
It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
do you even know what you're getting
She's
yourself
an
into?
MMA fighter.
Exactly.
You
It's
know
just
she
like,
can kick your ass.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and it was like, and you know, just Coach Charles was like, "You're kind of killing the vibe of the gym here. I'm gonna need you to step away."
Coach Charles, I feel like because they kept on showing, shots of him. I think he was down for it. He's like, yeah. He was like,
Maybe I
he
get
was there for
somebody
the
else.
drama.
Yeah,
He was there for the drama.
but
for
it's
sure.
like, I don't know. She was going after her, and the girl was like, "Whatever, we're sparring." But like I said, I suspect she would look less crazy if I'm sure Biniam has been like going in circles to avoid talking about how he's sparring with women.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
and I'm sure he has, but at the same time, she still looked crazy.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's like, oh, they, and you know, like my partner was this, and the person I was sparring with was this, and never being very careful to avoid pronouns and things like that.
Right.
But that's the kind of stuff he does. And why did he do that? Because he thought it was going to lead to this kind of fight.
Yeah. Well, he's not
Right,
wrong, but
but-
still, it's not making anything any better.
Yeah, totally. All right, so we end with Jibri and Miona. Well, we start with Miona, who's looking to try to set up a destination wedding in the country because she can't leave within the 90 days, and she's getting a lot of rejections on the phone, not surprising. She's also looking at this and be like, why are these places all 3 times more expensive in Serbia? Which I kind of feel like everybody's been telling her this whole time.
Yeah.
But then we just switch over to Jibri, who's in the studio working with Alex, the producer there that they're working with. David is there. Brandy, their rapper, is there. And he walks in the studio with Space Cash.
Gosh.
Who just wears a helmet the whole time, so we can't ever see his face, and also doesn't say anything at all. So they're working with Alex. They only got limited time in the studio, so it's time to go into the studio and lay these tracks down. And David starts off by going, "Everybody put your phones on silent." And then also starts bitching to Brandy about Miona. Like, how would you like it if somebody was always calling you and checking up? And she was like, well, she doesn't have any friends or anything here, so it kind of makes sense. He's like, whatever. So then Jibri takes out his phone to text Miona to be like, hey, I'm going to put it on silent and be on Do Not Disturb for a while we record. And David is like, why you got to do that? She knows you're in the studio. You should be focused on the work. And that doesn't sit with Jibri at all, who kind of eventually, as all this is going down, because David keeps needling him at it, kind of like shoves him in the side of the head or something.
I don't know what that was.
It was it wasn't a punch. It wasn't a shove. It was like, I'm just going to touch your face.
Yeah. Like push you around a little
Almost
bit.
like he was throwing a pie in his
Nudge.
face without a pie.
Yeah, it was like a nudging.
Yeah. And then it turned into a wrestling match, and that's where the episode ended. So, I mean, what do you think was going on here? Who was the real, instigator? What was going
Well,
on?
I think the instigator of the physical stuff was clearly Jibri,
Sure.
but David was also pushing his buttons because why does he care? A text takes, 10 seconds?
It takes less than the discussion they would have had about the text.
Right, so just let him to text her and... I mean, also Jibri could have avoided conflict by just saying, okay, I'm turning off my phone real quick. And then taking the time to text.
Yeah, and then texted quick before he didn't actually say he was going to text.
Right, but instead he announces it like, well, let me just text Miona and tell her what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I mean, it was all kind of a setup. And that's what I get where Miona is like, just, dude, like, if you're David, I don't understand. Just let it go, dude.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Yeah. But clearly there's resentment there, and we'll see coming up next time that really there is something going on.
Yeah, yeah. But that was the end of pretty much everything we had. So,
yeah.
Did you have a student of the week?
Student of the week. Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. I already in my mind was like, dunce. I already know what that's gonna be.
Sure, we have dunces already. I'll go first then, so you can think about it. I'm gonna go with Space Cash, just because.
Because he was there.
He didn't say anything. He just showed up, dabbed people up, and man, I feel like everybody who opened their mouth was like really, really bad this week.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone really off the top of my head. I guess Lisa? Emily and
Lisa's
Emily's mom?
Yeah, okay, Emily's mom. Yeah, I got it. Sure.
I mean, she tried to be somewhat diplomatic. She didn't get on his case. Kobe's case for something. I mean, she did in her own way tell him, like, that's not cool. Like, my husband would never speak to me that way.
Sure.
But,
I thought she did a pretty good job of not coming off too judgmental.
Yeah.
And being somewhat empathetic, considering that this person, Emily, is her daughter. You know?
True.
So speaking of, that was my dunce, Emily.
Yeah, I could see that. Like I was considering Emily for my dunce too. Just that you're right, not taking responsibility for her actions.
Right.
Or her role in anything. It's like, this was all your fault and you better fix it or we're done. And with that attitude.
Yes.
So I think I'll go with Thais is my dunce.
Okay.
Just, for maybe not being in touch with her feelings, but also not kind of articulating what was really bothering her. And instead just like bitching about all the free shit she had.
Yeah.
I don't like this free furniture. It's ugly. Like, I don't like this giant house. It's not my taste. Like, it is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to my life lesson. It's like, this passive aggressive bullshit is not how you're going to maintain a healthy relationship. And there was a lot of passive aggressive stuff happening in today's episode.
Yeah, there sure was. I guess I'll go for my life lesson. Like, the thing. Oh, yeah. Wash your feet in the bathroom sink. Like, bathrooms are literally for washing bodies. Like, let's just do it there. You can make your Wudu there. Exactly.
Yep, definitely. All right. So, we will be back next week. Probably back to the old format.
Yep.
Yeah. So this format is simply because we are in person recording together, but next week we will be back in our respective states, and so we'll be back next week. Same as usual.
Talk to everybody then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.